Welcome to part 3, the final chapter of Vivian and Taeyong's epic love story. If you missed parts 1 and 2, go watch them first because this finale will hit differently when you know their full journey. In part 1, we saw how a drugged knight led to a contract marriage. In part 2, we watched Vivian transform from servant to award-winning designer. Now in part 3, their love faces the ultimate tests. New enemies, impossible choices, secrets that could destroy everything. This is where we find out if their love is strong enough to survive. Grab your tissues, settle in, and don't forget to like, comment where you're watching from, subscribe, and share. Let's finish this story right. 6 months had passed since Vivian won the university design competition, and life had settled into a beautiful rhythm. Her days were filled with classes, design work, and building her portfolio. Her evenings were spent with Taeyong and grandmother Hana, the family she had always deserved but never had until now. Vivian's competition-winning design had caught the attention of the fashion world in ways she never imagined. Fashion magazines featured her work. Industry professionals reached out to collaborate. She had even been invited to speak at design conferences about cultural fusion in fashion. But nothing prepared her for the email that arrived on a Tuesday morning. Vivian was in the university studio working on her senior thesis collection when her phone chimed. The sender was Maison Beaumont, one of the most prestigious fashion houses in Paris. Her hands shook as she opened the message. Dear Mrs. Kim, we were captivated by your award-winning design and have been following your work closely. Your unique perspective on cultural fusion represents the future of fashion. We would like to offer you the position of lead designer at Maison Beaumont, based in our Paris headquarters. This is a 3-year contract with full creative control over our fusion line, a generous salary, and the opportunity to show your collections at Paris Fashion Week. We believe you could revolutionize the industry. Please contact us at your earliest convenience to discuss details. Vivian read the email 3 times, unable to process what it was saying. Lead designer at Maison Beaumont, Paris, full creative control. This was the kind of opportunity most designers only dreamed about. This was everything she had worked toward. But it was also 3 years in Paris, 3 years away from Taeyong, 3 years away from grandmother Hana, 3 years away from the life she had just started building. She called Maya immediately. Oh my God, Maya screamed when Vivian told her the news. Vivian, this is incredible. This is Maison Beaumont. Do you understand how huge this is? I know, Vivian said, but Maya, it is 3 years in Paris. What about Taeyong? What about everything here? What about your dreams? Maya said gently. Vivian, you have sacrificed so much already. The Carters stole 6 years from you. Do not let anything steal your dreams now. But I love him, Vivian said quietly. I love my life here. Is it selfish to want both? It is not selfish to want everything you deserve, Maya said. Talk to Taeyong. He loves you. He will understand. That evening at dinner, Vivian tried to find the right moment to tell Taeyong about the offer. But grandmother Hana dominated the conversation, excited about plans for the upcoming holiday season. She wanted to host a big celebration, invite all the family friends, show off how happy Vivian and Taeyong were. You two are my greatest joy, grandmother Hana said, her eyes shining with happiness. I cannot imagine my life without you both here. The words made Vivian's heart sink. How could she tell them she was considering leaving? After dinner, Taeyong pulled Vivian into his study. You have been quiet all evening, he said. What is wrong? Vivian took a deep breath and showed him the email from Maison Beaumont. She watched his face carefully as he read, trying to gauge his reaction. When he finished, he was quiet for a long moment. This is an incredible opportunity, he said finally. It is, Vivian agreed, but it is also 3 years in Paris. 3 years, Taeyong repeated. His expression was unreadable. I have not responded yet, Vivian said quickly. I wanted to talk to you first, to figure out what this means for us. What do you want to do? Taeyong asked. I do not know, Vivian admitted. Part of me wants to jump at this opportunity. It is everything I have dreamed about, but part of me cannot imagine leaving you, leaving this life we have built. Taeyong stood and walked to the window, his back to her. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. You should take it, he said. What? Vivian said, surprised. "This is your dream," Vivian Tiang said, still not turning around. "I will not be the reason you give up your dreams. We can make it work. Long distance. Video calls. I can visit when I can." "But 3 years," Vivian said. "I know," Tiang said, "and that terrifies me, but you deserve this opportunity. You have earned it." Vivian walked over to him and turned him to face her. "What if I do not want to be apart for 3 years?" she said. "What if there is another way?" "What other way?" Tiang asked. "I do not know yet," Vivian said, "but let me think about it. Let me see if there is a solution that does not require me choosing between my career and my marriage." Tiang pulled her into his arms. "I love you," he said. "Whatever you decide, I will support you. But please know that losing you for 3 years might actually kill me." Vivian held him tight, her heart aching. She had finally found love and happiness, and now the universe was testing whether she could keep it. 2 weeks passed while Vivian wrestled with her decision. She had asked Mason Beaumont for time to consider their offer, and they had graciously agreed to wait a month for her answer. But then something happened that changed everything. Vivian woke one morning to find Tiang's side of the bed empty. That was unusual. He usually held her until the alarm went off, reluctant to start the day and face the hours apart while she was at school and he was at work. She found him in the bathroom, leaning over the sink with his eyes closed. "Tiang," she said, "are you okay?" He turned to look at her and Vivian gasped. His face was covered in red hives, his eyes were swollen, and he was breathing heavily like he could not get enough air. "Oh my God," Vivian said, rushing to him. "What happened?" "I do not know," Tiang said, his voice hoarse. "I woke up like this." "Vivian," he looked at her with fear in his eyes. "I have not had a reaction like this in months, not since we got married." "Did you touch something new?" Vivian asked, her mind racing. "Eat something different." "No," Tiang said, "nothing. I was just sleeping next to you like always, and then I woke up and—" He stopped, realization dawning on his face. "Vivian, what if it is you?" What Vivian said, stepping back instinctively. "No, it cannot be me. You have been fine with me for months." "I know," Tiang said, "but what if my body is developing immunity or tolerance? What if I am becoming allergic to you again?" The words hung in the air between them, terrible and terrifying. "We need to get you to a doctor," Vivian said, "right now." They rushed to the hospital where Tiang's specialist Dr. Park examined him thoroughly. After running tests and taking blood samples, Dr. Park called them into his office with a grave expression. "I am afraid I have concerning news," he said. "Your allergy condition appears to be progressing. The antibodies in your system are increasing rapidly, which suggests your body is becoming more reactive, not less." "But he has been fine for months," Vivian protested. "Ever since we met, he has had no reactions when touching me." "Yes, and that is quite unusual," Dr. Park said. "Typically, this condition either remains stable or worsens over time. The fact that you provided temporary relief was remarkable, but I am afraid it appears that relief is ending." "What does this mean?" Tiang asked. "It means we need to be very careful," Dr. Park said. "If your symptoms continue to worsen, physical contact of any kind could become life-threatening. Not just uncomfortable, but actually dangerous." Vivian felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her. "Are you saying he cannot touch me anymore?" "I am saying we need to monitor the situation very closely," Dr. Park said. "For now, I would recommend minimizing physical contact until we understand what is happening. I will prescribe medication to help manage the symptoms, and we will run more tests next week." In the car ride home, neither of them spoke. Vivian stared out the window, fighting back tears. They had just found each other, just admitted their love was real, and now they might lose the one thing that made their relationship possible, the ability to touch each other. When they arrived home, Grandmother Hana took one look at Tiang's face and immediately called for staff to prepare his room with hypoallergenic everything. She fussed over him like he was a child again, her face tight with worry. That night, Vivian lay alone in the bed she had been sharing with Tiang for months. The space beside her felt impossibly empty. She could hear him in the next room, could imagine him lying there just as lonely as she was, separated by a wall and a medical condition neither of them understood. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mason Beaumont. Just checking in about the position. We are eager to hear your decision. Vivian stared at the message. How could she possibly leave now when Tiang was dealing with a health crisis? But how could she stay and watch him suffer, knowing that her presence might be making it worse? She had never felt so helpless in her life. 3 days after Tiang's health crisis began, a woman arrived at the Kim estate claiming to have an appointment with grandmother Hana. She was tall and elegant, with perfect features and an air of confidence that came from years of privilege. She wore a designer suit. Her name was Isabella Chen, and she was a famous fashion designer from Milan with her own label and boutiques around the world. Vivian recognized her immediately. Every fashion student knew who Isabella Chen was. What Vivian did not know was why Isabella Chen was sitting in their living room having tea with grandmother Hana. Isabella dear, grandmother Hana was saying when Vivian entered. Let me introduce you to my granddaughter-in-law, Vivian. Vivian, this is Isabella Chen. She is an old friend of the family. Mrs. Kim Vivian said politely, shaking Isabella's perfectly manicured hand. Please, call me Isabella, the woman said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. And congratulations on your marriage to Tiang. I heard the news and I simply had to come see him. You know my husband, Vivian asked, something in Isabella's tone putting her on edge. Know him, Isabella laughed. Darling, Tiang and I were engaged years ago, before his condition became too severe. Vivian felt like she had been slapped. Engaged. Tiang had never mentioned being engaged to anyone. It was a long time ago, Isabella continued, clearly enjoying Vivian's shock. We were quite serious. But then his allergy condition worsened and he pushed me away. Said he could not ask me to live a life without physical intimacy. So noble of him. She sipped her tea delicately. I heard he has had some improvement lately, she said, her eyes sharp as she studied Vivian. But I also heard his condition is worsening again. Such a tragedy. Who told you that? Vivian asked. I have my sources, Isabella said. The medical community is small, especially when dealing with rare conditions like Tiang's. In fact, that is why I am here. I have been working with a specialist in Switzerland who believes he has found a treatment. I wanted to offer my help. That is very kind of you, grandmother Hana said, though even she looked uncertain. It is the least I could do, Isabella said. I still care deeply for Tiang, even though we could not be together. I want to see him happy and healthy. Just then, Tiang entered the room. He stopped short when he saw Isabella, his expression shifting from surprise to something Vivian could not quite read. Discomfort, maybe, or guilt. Isabella, he said, what are you doing here? Isabella stood and moved toward him, then stopped, remembering she should not touch him. I heard you were having health problems, she said, and I wanted to help. I have a specialist who might be able to treat your condition properly. Tiang glanced at Vivian, then back at Isabella. That is unnecessary, he said. I have excellent doctors. But are they finding solutions? Isabella asked. Or are they just managing symptoms? Because I have someone who can actually cure you, Tiang. Imagine being free of this condition, being able to live a normal life. I am living a normal life, Tiang said. I have a wife who I love. I am happy. Are you? Isabella asked, her voice soft but pointed. Because from what I hear, you cannot even touch your own wife anymore. Is that the life you want? Is that the life she deserves? The words hit their target. Vivian saw Tiang flinch. I think you should leave, Vivian said, standing up. Thank you for your concern, but as my husband said, we have excellent doctors. Isabella turned to her with a sympathetic smile that made Vivian want to slap her. I understand you are protective of him, she said. But sweetie, you have only known Tiang for a few months. I have known him for years. I know what he needs. And right now, he needs proper medical treatment, not a girl playing dress-up as his wife. How dare you? Vivian started, but Tiang interrupted. Isabella, enough, he said firmly. I appreciate your offer, but it is not welcome. Please leave. Isabella's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing anger underneath. Fine, she said. But when your condition gets worse, when your wife realizes she married someone who can never truly be a husband to her, my offer will still stand. She gathered her designer bag and coat. "Call me when you come to your senses," she said, and swept out of the room like she owned the place. After she left, the room was silent. Grandmother Hana looked between Tiong and Vivian with concern. "You were engaged to her," Vivian said quietly. "A long time ago," Tiong said, "before I met you. It did not work out." "Why did you never mention it?" Vivian asked. "Because it did not matter," Tiong said. "It was years ago. She is part of my past." "It seems like she wants to be part of your present," Vivian said. "Well, she cannot be," Tiong said. "You are my wife. You are my present and my future." But he would not meet her eyes when he said it, and Vivian felt the first seeds of doubt plant themselves in her heart. The tension in the Kim household grew thicker over the following week. Tiong's condition continued to worsen. Even being in the same room as Vivian seemed to trigger mild reactions now. They had stopped sleeping in the same bedroom, stopped having meals together, stopped touching at all. Vivian threw herself into her schoolwork and her decision about the Paris job. She had 2 weeks left to give Mason Beaumont an answer, and increasingly, leaving seemed like the kindest thing she could do. If her presence was making Tiong sick, maybe distance was what he needed. Isabella had been calling and texting Tiong constantly, offering updates on her Swiss specialist and pushing him to accept help. Tiong insisted he was ignoring her, but Vivian noticed he had not blocked her number either. Then, one morning, everything changed. Vivian was at the university when she got a frantic call from one of the Kim household staff. "Mrs. Kim, you need to come home right away," the woman said. "It is grandmother Hana. She collapsed. We have called an ambulance." Vivian ran out of class without explanation, catching a taxi to the Kim estate. She arrived just as the ambulance was pulling away, lights flashing. Tiong was climbing into the back, his face pale and terrified. "Wait," Vivian called. "I am coming too." At the hospital, doctors rushed grandmother Hana into emergency surgery. She had suffered a massive stroke, they explained. The next few hours would be critical. Vivian and Tiong sat in the waiting room, not speaking, not touching, both lost in their own fear and guilt. If grandmother Hana died, Vivian thought it would destroy Tiong. She was all he had left of his original family. After 6 agonizing hours, a doctor emerged. "The surgery was successful," he said. "She is stable but very weak. She is asking for both of you." They followed the doctor to the ICU where grandmother Hana lay in bed, looking small and frail in a way Vivian had never seen. Tubes and wires connected her to various machines, monitoring her vital signs. Her eyes opened when they entered, focusing on Vivian and Tiong with surprising clarity despite her weakened state. "Come closer," she whispered. They approached the bed, standing on opposite sides. Grandmother Hana reached out with trembling hands, taking one of Vivian's and one of Tiong's. "I do not have much time," she said. "Listen to me." "Grandmother, you are going to be fine," Tiong started, but she cut him off. "Let me speak," she said firmly. Her grip tightened on their hands. "I have lived a long life, a good life, and the best part of these last months has been watching you two find each other." She looked at Tiong. "Your father had the same condition you have," she said. "The allergy to touch. I never told you because I thought it would only add to your pain, but I need you to know now." Tiong stared at her in shock. "My father, he had this too." "Yes," grandmother Hana said, "and I learned something about it. It was not truly a physical allergy, it was psychological. Rooted in trauma and fear. When he finally addressed his childhood pain through therapy, the symptoms disappeared." She turned to Vivian. "And you, my dear granddaughter, you helped him more than any medicine could. Your presence, your love, it gave him relief because you made him feel safe. You made him feel worthy of love again." Her breathing became labored, and monitors started beeping faster. "Do not let fear separate you," she said. "Do not let anyone convince you that love is not enough. It is everything. It is all that matters." She looked between them with fierce intensity. "Promise me," she said. "Promise me you will fight for each other." "We promise," Vivian said, tears streaming down her face. "We promise," Tiong echoed, his own voice breaking. "Good grandmother Hana said, now go, be together. Life is too short for anything else." The doctor ushered them out as grandmother Hana's condition stabilized. In the hallway, Vivian and Tiang stood facing each other, their grandmother's words echoing between them. My father had this condition, Tiang said, still processing, and it was psychological. Which means yours might be too, Vivian said. Tiang, what if your symptoms getting worse is not about me? What if it is about fear, about stress, about everything that has been happening? The offer from Paris, Tiang said quietly. You are considering leaving me. Maybe my body is reacting to that fear. I do not want to leave you, Vivian said, but I also do not want to be the reason you are suffering. You are not the reason, Tiang said. You are the cure. We just forgot that for a moment. He reached out his hand, palm up, offering. I know we have been avoiding touching, she said, but I am willing to risk it if you are, because grandmother Hana is right. Life is too short. Vivian looked at his outstretched hand. Then she placed her hand in his. Nothing happened. No hives, no swelling, no difficulty breathing. Just the warmth of his skin against hers, the connection they had been denying themselves. Tiang pulled her into his arms and held her tight. I am so sorry, he whispered. I let fear almost destroy us. We both did, Vivian said, but we are not going to let it win. They stood there in the hospital hallway, holding each other, remembering why they had fallen in love in the first place. Over the next week, grandmother Hana slowly recovered, though the doctors warned she would need months of rehabilitation and would likely never regain her full strength. She had been permanently weakened by the stroke, her body finally showing its age. But her mind was sharp as ever, and she used every opportunity to remind Vivian and Tiang of their promise to fight for each other. The deadline for Vivian's decision about the Paris job was approaching. She had 1 week left to respond to Mason Beaumont, and she still had no idea what to do. Tiang's health had stabilized somewhat after their reconciliation in the hospital, but he still had occasional reactions. They were managing it, but there was an underlying fear that it could get worse again at any time. Then Isabella showed up again, this time with her Swiss specialist in tow. Dr. Friedrich Müller was an imposing man with a thick accent and an air of absolute confidence. Isabella had arranged for him to meet with Tiang and present his treatment plan. Against his better judgment, Tiang agreed to hear them out. Vivian insisted on being present. They met in Tiang's office at Kim Industries. Dr. Müller spread out medical charts and research papers, explaining his groundbreaking approach to treating rare allergy conditions. Your case is fascinating, he said to Tiang. The psychosomatic component combined with genuine physical reactions creates a unique treatment challenge, but I believe I can help you. He outlined a treatment plan that would require Tiang to spend 3 months at his clinic in Switzerland, undergoing intensive therapy and medical treatment. 3 months away from my company, Tiang said. That is impossible. Your health is more important than your company, Isabella said. Besides, I could help manage Kim Industries while you are gone. I have business experience. That will not be necessary, Tiang said coldly. The thing is, Dr. Müller said, his treatment requires complete isolation from triggering stimuli. That means no contact with anyone who might cause reactions, including your wife. Vivian felt like she had been punched. You want him to go to Switzerland alone, she said, for 3 months, with no contact. It is the only way to reset his system, Dr. Müller said. Any exposure could compromise the treatment. This is ridiculous, Vivian said. You are asking him to choose between his health and his marriage. Is his marriage worth dying for? Isabella asked sharply. Because that is what will happen if his condition continues to deteriorate. The next severe reaction could cause anaphylactic shock. It could kill him. The words hung in the air, terrible and terrifying. Vivian looked at Tiang and saw the conflict on his face. He was actually considering this. Can I speak to my husband alone? Vivian said. Of course, Isabella said with a satisfied smile. Take all the time you need. After they left, Vivian turned to Tiang. You cannot actually be thinking about this, she said. What if they are right? Tiang said. What if the next reaction kills me? What then, Vivian? Then we face it together, Vivian said. But I am not letting you go to Switzerland alone for 3 months with that woman hovering around you. She is just trying to help, Tiang said. Is she, Vivian asked. Or is she trying to get you back? Wake up, Tiang. She wants to separate us. She wants you to herself. Maybe that would be better for everyone, Tiang said quietly. Vivian felt tears burn her eyes. Do not say that. Do not you dare say that. You have the Paris offer, Tiang said. 3 years at your dream job. And I have this treatment that could cure me. Maybe we should both take our opportunities. Maybe trying to force this relationship to work is what is making everything worse. So what are you saying, Vivian asked. You want to end this. You want a divorce. I am saying maybe we were naive to think a contract marriage could become real love, Tiang said. Maybe we should cut our losses before one of us gets hurt worse than we already are. I am already hurt, Vivian said, her voice breaking. Your words are hurting me right now, but I am not giving up on us. I am not going to Paris. I am not leaving you. Why not, Tiang asked. This is your dream. You are my dream, Vivian said. You and the life we have built. I do not need Paris to prove I am successful. I need you to believe that we are worth fighting for. She moved closer to him, taking his hands despite the risk. Tell me you love me, she said. Tell me this is real. Tiang looked at their joined hands, then at her face, conflict written in every line of his expression. I love you, he said finally. God help me, I love you so much, but loving you might kill me, and I do not know what to do about that. Then we figure it out together, Vivian said. But we do not run away from each other. We run toward each other. That is what love is. That night, Vivian could not sleep. Something about Dr. Mueller and Isabella's sudden appearance, their perfect treatment plan, their insistence that Tiang had to go to Switzerland alone. It all felt wrong. She called Maya, even though it was past midnight. I need your help, she said. Something is not adding up about Tiang's treatment. What do you need, Maya asked, instantly alert. You work at the medical research facility, Vivian said. Can you look into Dr. Friedrich Mueller and his clinic in Switzerland? See if his treatment claims check out. Give me a few hours, Maya said. I will call you back. Vivian paced her room, unable to rest. At 3 a.m, Maya called back. Vivian, you need to hear this, Maya said, her voice tight with anger. Dr. Mueller's clinic lost its medical license 2 years ago. Multiple patients filed complaints about ineffective treatments and financial exploitation. He is essentially a fraud. What Vivian said, but Isabella presented him as this renowned specialist. There is more, Maya said. I did some digging into Isabella Chen. She has a history of this. 6 years ago, she was dating another wealthy businessman in Milan. When he started seeing someone else, Isabella hired a fake doctor to convince him his new girlfriend was causing his health problems. She broke them up and swooped in. The guy eventually found out and pressed charges, but Isabella settled out of court. She has done this before, Vivian said, rage building in her chest. It gets worse, Maya said. I accessed Tiang's medical records. Do not ask me how. His regular doctor, Dr. Park, has been getting payments from an offshore account that traces back to a company Isabella owns. She has been bribing his doctor, Vivian said. It looks like it, Maya confirmed. I think Dr. Park has been giving Tiang medication that causes allergic reactions instead of treating them, to make him think his condition is worsening. That is insane, Vivian said. That is criminal. It is also provable, Maya said. I have documentation. Bank transfers, pharmacy records, everything. Vivian, you need to expose this before Tiang agrees to go to Switzerland. Vivian looked at the clock. It was 3:30 in the morning, but this could not wait. Can you send me everything you found, she asked. Already done, Maya said. Check your email. And Vivian, be careful. Isabella has money and connections. She will fight dirty. So will I, Vivian said. She spent the next few hours reviewing every document Maya had sent. The evidence was damning. Dr. Park had been receiving monthly payments of $50,000 from Isabella's shell company for the past 4 months, right around the time Tiang's symptoms started worsening. The medications Dr. Park had prescribed were not allergy treatments at all. They were actually compounds known to trigger allergic responses in people with sensitivities. He had been deliberately making Tiang sick. And Dr. Mueller's clinic in Switzerland had been shut down after patients complained. He had taken their money and provided no real treatment, just expensive placebos and false hope. Isabella had orchestrated everything. The worsening symptoms, the fake specialist, the pressure to go to Switzerland, all to separate Vivian and Tiang so she could insert herself back into his life. At 8 a.m, Vivian called Tiang. "I need you to come home right now," she said. "I have something you need to see, and call your lawyer. We are going to need legal counsel." "Vivian, what is going on?" Tiang asked. "Just trust me," Vivian said. "Please." An hour later, Tiang arrived home with his lawyer. Vivian spread out all the evidence on the dining room table. As Tiang read through the documents, his face went from confusion to disbelief to rage. "She did this," he said. "Isabella poisoned me. She paid my doctor to make me sick. And she hired a fake specialist to convince you to go to Switzerland with her," Vivian added, "where she would have had you isolated and under her control for 3 months. This is attempted murder," Tiang's lawyer said. "At minimum, it is assault, fraud, and conspiracy. Mr. Kim, you have grounds to press serious criminal charges." "I want her arrested," Tiang said. "I want Dr. Park arrested. I want them both to pay for this." "I will contact the authorities immediately," the lawyer said. "With this evidence, we have a very strong case." Tiang turned to Vivian, his eyes filled with gratitude and remorse. "You saved me," he said. "If you had not investigated this, I would have gone to Switzerland. I would have left you. I almost fell for her manipulation again." "I told you," Vivian said. "We are stronger together. We just have to remember to trust each other." "I am so sorry," Tiang said, "for doubting you, for doubting us. I should have known Isabella had ulterior motives." "She was very convincing," Vivian said, "and you were scared. Fear makes people vulnerable to manipulation." Still, Tiang said, "I almost threw away the best thing that ever happened to me." "But you did not," Vivian said, "and now we know the truth. Now we can fight back." "Oh, we are going to do more than fight back," Tiang said, a dangerous edge to his voice. "I am going to make sure Isabella Chen never manipulates anyone ever again." While Vivian and Tiang were dealing with Isabella's conspiracy, Devon was plotting his own revenge from the ruins of the Carter family's collapsed life. Living in a cramped apartment, working a menial job, watching his mother and Celeste struggle with poverty for the first time in their lives, Devon blamed everything on Vivian. If she had just played along, if she had helped them connect with the Kim family wealth, none of this would have happened. So when Isabella Chen contacted him with an offer, he jumped at the chance for payback. Isabella had researched Vivian thoroughly and knew about the Carter family situation. She reached out to Devon with a proposition. She would pay him $100,000 if he could provide information that would destroy Vivian's reputation and marriage. Devon delivered everything he could. Fabricated documents suggesting Vivian had been planning to leave Tiang for the Paris job all along. Edited emails that made it look like she was only staying for the Kim family money. False testimony from people claiming Vivian had always been a gold digger looking for a wealthy man to exploit. Isabella took all of this material and crafted a devastating media story. She leaked it to tabloid journalists with connections to her family, ensuring it would be published before anyone could verify the facts. The story broke on a Friday morning with a headline, "Gold Digger Revealed. Kim Industries heir's wife plotted Paris escape with fortune." The article painted Vivian as a calculating social climber who had manipulated Tiang from the beginning. It claimed she had deliberately targeted him because of his medical condition, knowing he would be vulnerable. It suggested her entire persona, the struggling fashion student, the abused daughter, the devoted wife, was all an elaborate con. Within hours, the story went viral. Social media exploded with commentary. People who had praised Vivian's competition win now questioned whether she had cheated or slept her way to success. Fashion brands that had wanted to collaborate suddenly went silent. Even some of her professors at Ashford University seemed to view her differently. By afternoon, reporters were camped outside the Kim estate. Paparazzi followed Vivian when she tried to go to class. Students whispered and pointed at her in the hallways. Maya found her crying in the university bathroom. "Do not let them win," Maya said fiercely. "This is what they want. They want to break you." "It is working," Vivian said. "Maya, everyone believes I am this terrible person. Even people who know me are starting to doubt." "Then we prove them wrong," Maya said. "We find the truth and we shove it in their faces." How, Vivian asked. "Devin has fabricated evidence. He has people willing to lie. How do I fight that?" "The same way you found out about Isabella," Maya said. "You dig. You investigate. You find the real evidence." That night, Tiong held a press conference. He stood at a podium outside Kim Industries headquarters with Vivian by his side. "The recent stories about my wife are categorically false," he said, his voice firm and clear. "Vivian Carter Kim is a woman of integrity who has been unfairly targeted by people with malicious intent. I know her character. I know her heart, and I stand by her completely." He took Vivian's hand. "My wife could have left me many times," he continued. "When my health was failing, when her career opportunities arose, when staying with me became difficult. But she chose to stay. She chose us, because that is who she is. Someone who values love and loyalty over convenience and profit." Reporters shouted questions, but Tiong ignored them. "To those who have spread these lies," he said, "I say this. You have made a grave mistake. Attacking my wife is attacking me, and I will use every resource at my disposal to expose the truth and hold you accountable." He and Vivian turned and walked back into the building, leaving the press clamoring behind them. In the car, Vivian finally broke down. "Why are they doing this?" she sobbed. "What did I do to deserve this?" "You did nothing wrong," Tiong said, holding her. "You are successful and happy, and that threatens people who are miserable. But we are going to fight this. We are going to expose every lie." The media frenzy continued for days. Every aspect of Vivian's life was dissected and debated. Her past with the Carters, her quick marriage to Tiong, her competition win, even her fashion designs were questioned and criticized. Someone leaked photos of the original hotel night, though they were grainy and did not show much. Still, the implication was clear. Vivian had engineered the whole thing to trap Tiong. The pressure became unbearable. Vivian stopped going to classes because the harassment from other students and photographers was too intense. She stayed home, watching her reputation get destroyed in real time on social media. Professor Lee called to check on her. "I know the truth about you," the older woman said. "I know you are genuine and talented. Do not let this break you, Vivian." "But it is breaking me," Vivian admitted. "Even people who know me are starting to doubt. I saw it in your eyes yesterday when I was in your office." "I will admit, the allegations made me question some things," Professor Lee said. "But then I remembered your work, your passion. The way you light up when you talk about design. That cannot be faked. Art always reveals the truth about the artist." "What do I do?" Vivian asked. "You keep creating," Professor Lee said. "You keep being yourself. The truth always comes out eventually." Meanwhile, Tiong's team was working overtime to trace the source of the fabricated evidence. They tracked down the witnesses Devin had provided and discovered they were actors he had hired on social media. They found the original, unedited emails that proved Devin had fabricated the ones that made Vivian look bad. And then they discovered something even more damaging. Phone records showing that Devin and Isabella had been in constant contact for weeks, planning their strategy. Bank records showing Isabella had paid Devin the promised $100,000. It was all the evidence they needed to prove conspiracy. But the constant pressure and stress were taking their toll on Tiong too. Despite knowing intellectually that the stories about Vivian were false, the seeds of doubt had been planted. Late one night, unable to sleep, he found himself looking at the documents from Mason Beaumont again. The offer to Vivian, 3 years in Paris, full creative control. It was an incredible opportunity. What if, a small voice whispered in his mind, what if she does resent me for making her turn it down? What if years from now, she looks back and realizes she sacrificed her dreams for me? He thought about Isabella's words. Is that the life she deserves? In the dark hours before dawn, fear and exhaustion made him vulnerable to doubt. He started imagining scenarios where Vivian eventually left him anyway, where she woke up one day and realized she had made a mistake marrying him. The next morning at breakfast, he was distant and quiet. Vivian noticed immediately. What is wrong, she asked. Nothing, Tiang said, just tired. You are lying to me, Vivian said. I can tell. What is going on? Tiang put down his coffee cup and looked at her. The Paris offer, he said. Do you ever regret turning it down? What, Vivian said. No, why would you ask that? Because it was your dream, Tiang said, and you gave it up for me. What if you wake up in 5 years and realize you made the wrong choice? Tiang, where is this coming from, Vivian asked. I do not know, Tiang admitted. The stress, the media attention, Isabella's manipulation. It is making me question everything, even things I know are not true. Like your trust in me, Vivian said quietly. Tiang closed his eyes. I do trust you. But Vivian, what if they are right about one thing? What if you staying with me is holding you back? What if I am being selfish keeping you here when you could be in Paris building an incredible career? So you are saying you want me to leave, Vivian asked, hurt evident in her voice. No, Tiang said. Yes. I do not know, I want you to be happy, and I am not sure I can make you happy anymore. Vivian stood up from the table, her hands shaking. You are letting them win, she said. Isabella, Devon, all of them, they wanted to make you doubt me, doubt us, and it is working. I am trying to protect you, Tiang said. I do not need protection from our marriage, Vivian said. I need you to fight for us. But if you cannot do that, if you are going to let other people's lies destroy what we have built, then maybe we do not have anything worth saving. She walked out, leaving Tiang alone with his doubts and his fears. Vivian was not going to let her marriage fall apart without a fight. If Tiang was too consumed by doubt to see clearly, she would have to be strong enough for both of them. She called Maya and Professor Lee and asked them to help her investigate Isabella's background more thoroughly. If Isabella had done this before, there had to be a pattern. There had to be other victims. They worked for 3 days straight, following digital trails, making phone calls, connecting dots. And slowly a picture emerged. Isabella Chen had a history of becoming obsessed with wealthy, unavailable men. She had targeted at least 4 other men over the past decade, each time using similar tactics: manipulation, false medical claims, bribing professionals, fabricating evidence. In Milan, she had destroyed the relationship of a banking executive and his fiancé. In London, she had convinced a tech entrepreneur that his girlfriend was cheating on him, though it was not true. In Tokyo, she had hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on a businessman's wife and leak it to the press. And in each case, Isabella had swooped in during the chaos, positioning herself as the understanding friend who could provide comfort and support. In 2 cases, she had briefly succeeded in seducing the men before they discovered her manipulation and pushed her away. Maya found several of these ex-victims and reached out to them. All were willing to testify about Isabella's patterns of behavior. One even had documentation of the bribes Isabella had paid to professionals to sabotage his previous relationship. We have enough to bury her, Maya said. Good, Vivian said, because I am done playing defense. It is time to go on the offensive. She contacted a journalist she had met during her competition win, someone she trusted to report the truth. She provided all the evidence they had gathered: Isabella's history of manipulation, the bribes to Dr. Park, the fake Swiss specialist, Devon's conspiracy, everything. The journalist spent a week verifying every detail, interviewing sources, building an airtight story. Meanwhile, Vivian planned a confrontation. The Seoul Fashion Gala was the biggest event of the season, attended by designers, celebrities, business leaders, and media from around the world. Isabella would be there, flaunting her success and her connections. Vivian bought a ticket. Tiang tried to convince her not to go. Let my lawyers handle this, he said. You do not need to put yourself in that position. Yes, I do, Vivian said. I need to face her. I need to show everyone that I am not going to be destroyed by lies. Then I am coming with you, Tiang said. No, Vivian said. You need to decide if you trust me, if you believe in us. And you need to make that decision on your own, not because you are trying to protect me. Vivian, Tiang started, but she cut him off. I love you, she said, but I cannot keep fighting for us if you are not going to fight too. Figure out what you want. In the meantime, I am going to clear my name. The night of the gala, Vivian wore a gown she had designed herself, a stunning creation in midnight blue that made her look like royalty. She walked into the event with her head held high, ignoring the whispers and stares. Isabella was holding court near the center of the room, surrounded by admirers. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than most people's cars and dripped with jewelry. When she saw Vivian approaching, her smile faltered. "Vivian, darling," Isabella said loudly, making sure others could hear. "I am surprised to see you here. I thought you would be hiding after all those scandalous stories." "I do not hide from lies," Vivian said, her voice carrying across the room. "I expose them." She pulled out her phone and connected to the gala's display screens. Within seconds, evidence appeared on every monitor. Bank transfers, phone records, testimony from Isabella's previous victims. "This is Isabella Chen," Vivian announced to the room. "She is not just a designer. She is a professional manipulator who targets wealthy men and destroys their relationships so she can insert herself into their lives." The evidence scrolled across the screens. People gasped, pulling out their own phones to record. "She bribed my husband's doctor to make him sick," Vivian continued. "She hired a fake medical specialist to convince him to leave me. She paid my brother to fabricate evidence against me, and she has done this to multiple men over the past decade." "This is ridiculous," Isabella said, her face going pale. "These are lies, more fabrications." "Then explain the bank transfers," Vivian said. "Explain the phone records. Explain why 4 different men in 4 different countries all describe the exact same pattern of manipulation from you." Isabella looked around frantically, but the damage was done. People were already backing away from her, phones raised, recording everything. A security guard approached with police officers. "Isabella Chen," an officer said, "you are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted extortion. You have the right to remain silent." As they led Isabella away in handcuffs, she screamed at Vivian. "You ruined everything," she shrieked. "He was mine. Tiang was supposed to be mine." "He was never yours," Vivian said calmly, "and he never will be." The room erupted in conversation as Isabella was taken away. Journalists swarmed Vivian, asking for interviews, for her side of the story. But Vivian only had eyes for the entrance, where Tiang had just appeared. He walked through the crowd straight to her, ignoring everyone else. When he reached her, he dropped to one knee. The room went silent. Vivian Carter, Kim Tiang said, "I have been a fool. I let fear and doubt almost destroy the best thing in my life. I am sorry for not trusting you, for not fighting hard enough, for letting other people's poison infect my mind." He pulled out a small box and opened it to reveal a stunning ring. "I know we are already married," he said, "but I want to do this right. I want to ask you properly with no contracts, no conditions, no doubts. Vivian, will you stay married to me? Will you build a life with me? Will you choose me every day the way I choose you?" Tears streamed down Vivian's face. "Yes," she said, "yes to all of it." Tiang stood and slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into his arms and kissed her deeply, not caring that hundreds of people were watching and recording. When they finally broke apart, the room erupted in applause. The evidence against Devon was overwhelming. He had accepted money to fabricate evidence, hired actors to pose as witnesses, and conspired with Isabella to destroy Vivian's reputation. Within 48 hours of Isabella's arrest, police showed up at the small apartment where Devon lived with Diane and Celeste. "Devon Carter," the officer said, "you are under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, defamation, and extortion." Diane screamed and tried to intervene, claiming her son was innocent, that he had been manipulated by Isabella. But the evidence was irrefutable. At the police station, Devon broke down. Faced with potential years in prison, he agreed to testify against Isabella in exchange for a reduced sentence. He provided details of their entire plan, the phone calls, the strategies, the payments. His testimony sealed Isabella's fate. She was charged with multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy, bribery, and attempted murder for the poisoning scheme with Dr. Park. Dr. Park had already lost his medical license and was facing his own criminal charges. He tearfully admitted to accepting bribes and deliberately making Tiang sick, though he claimed he did not realize how dangerous it could become. The story dominated the news. Public opinion, which had turned against Vivian so quickly, now swung back in her favor. She was portrayed as a victim who had fought back against powerful people trying to destroy her. Mason Beaumont reached out again, apologizing for doubting her and offering an even better opportunity, creative director with the ability to work from Seoul and only travel to Paris quarterly. This time, Vivian turned them down completely. "I am building something of my own," she told them, "something that represents who I am, but thank you for believing in me." With Isabella arrested, Devon facing trial, and the truth finally exposed, Tiang worked to make amends for his moment of doubt. He held another press conference, this time specifically to address his wife. "I want to speak directly to Vivian," he said, looking into the camera. "I let fear and manipulation plant seeds of doubt about the woman I love. I questioned her intentions, her loyalty, her love. I was wrong. Vivian has given up opportunities, faced public humiliation, and fought battles she should never have had to fight, all because she chose to stand by me. She is the strongest, most loyal person I know, and I promise to spend the rest of my life proving that I am worthy of her faith in me." He paused, emotion clear in his voice. "To everyone watching," he continued, "I want you to understand something. My wife saved my life, not just physically from poisoning, but emotionally and spiritually. She taught me that love is not a transaction. It is not a contract. It is a choice you make every day to show up for someone, to believe in them, to fight for them even when it is hard. Vivian chose me every single day, and I will choose her for the rest of mine." The press conference went viral. People who had believed the lies about Vivian now felt guilty. Apologies flooded social media. Brands that had dropped her reached out again, begging for collaboration. But Vivian did not need their validation anymore. She had something more valuable, the knowledge that she had stood strong against terrible odds and won. With Dr. Park exposed and Isabella's conspiracy revealed, Tiang finally got proper medical care. A new specialist, recommended by someone with no connection to Isabella, performed comprehensive tests. The diagnosis was exactly what grandmother Hana had suggested. Tiang's condition was primarily psychosomatic, rooted in childhood trauma from losing his mother and the fear of losing everyone he loved. The specialist recommended a combination of therapy to address the underlying trauma and medication to manage the physical symptoms that had become habitual responses. "Your body learned to react with allergies as a defense mechanism," the doctor explained, "to protect you from the pain of connection and potential loss. But now that you understand the root cause, we can retrain those responses." The treatment was not quick or easy. Tiang spent months in therapy, working through grief he had never properly processed, fear he had never acknowledged, pain he had buried for years. Vivian attended some sessions with him, working through her own trauma from the Carter family, her own fears of abandonment and worthlessness. They learned to communicate better, to express their fears instead of letting them fester, to ask for what they needed instead of expecting the other to read minds. Slowly, Tiang's symptoms improved. He could touch Vivian without any reaction. Eventually, he could have normal physical contact with others as well, though he joked that he only wanted to touch his wife. The doctors called it a remarkable recovery, but Tiang knew the truth. He had not been cured by medicine. He had been healed by love, therapy, and the courage to face his demons. Grandmother Hana's physical recovery was slower than Tiang's emotional one. The stroke had left her permanently weakened, requiring a walker and constant care. But her spirit was undiminished. From her wheelchair or bed, she held court, issuing orders to the household staff, dispensing wisdom to Vivian and Tiang, and planning for the future. One afternoon, she called them both to her room for a private conversation. "I have been thinking about my legacy," she said. "Kim Industries will go to Tiang, of course, but I want to do something special for Vivian." "Grandmother, you do not need to do anything," Vivian protested. "Hush, child," grandmother Hana said. "I am old and stubborn, and I will do what I want. I am creating a foundation in your name, the Vivian Kim Foundation for Young Designers. It will provide scholarships, mentorship, and resources for talented students who lack financial means or family support. Vivian felt tears well up. Grandmother, that is too much. It is not enough, grandmother, Hannah said. You showed me that talent exists everywhere, in every background, every circumstance. We just have to look for it and nurture it. This foundation will ensure other young people get the chances you were nearly denied. She took Vivian's hand. You transformed this family, she said. You brought joy back to this house. You saved my grandson's life. Let me do this small thing to honor you. It is not small, Vivian said. It is extraordinary, thank you. With everything that had happened, Mason Beaumont had continued reaching out, unwilling to accept Vivian's rejection. They kept sweetening the offer, clearly desperate to have her talent associated with their brand. Finally, Vivian agreed to a meeting with their CEO. She flew to Paris with Tiang, and they met at an elegant restaurant near the Mason Beaumont headquarters. Mrs. Kim, the CEO, began, We are honored you agreed to meet with us. Our offer stands, creative director, work from Seoul, quarterly trips to Paris. We will give you complete autonomy. Vivian listened politely as he detailed the opportunity, the resources, the prestige, the money. When he finished, she smiled. Thank you for your generous offer, she said, but I need you to understand something. I do not need Mason Beaumont. You need me. The CEO blinked in surprise. I represent something your brand has never had, Vivian continued. Authentic cultural fusion. A designer who actually lives between worlds instead of appropriating them for aesthetic purposes. You recognize that I could elevate your brand, so let me counter with a different proposal. She pulled out a folder. Instead of hearing me, Vivian said, invest in my company. I am launching Two Worlds Designs, an independent fashion house based in Seoul. We will create collections celebrating multicultural fusion, primarily African and Asian aesthetics. Mason Beaumont can be our first major investor and retail partner. You will have exclusive rights to distribute our designs in Europe. She laid out her business plan, which she and Tiang had been developing for months with the help of Kim Industries' business strategists. The numbers are solid, she said. The market research shows demand. The cultural moment is right. You can either hire me and own me, or you can partner with me and help build something revolutionary. The CEO studied her with new respect. You are quite the negotiator, he said. I learned from the best, Vivian said, glancing at Tiang. So what do you say? Are you ready to actually support diverse designers instead of just profiting from diversity? The CEO smiled. Let us discuss terms. 2 weeks later, Mason Beaumont announced a major investment partnership with Two Worlds Designs. Vivian would be CEO and creative director of her own company, with offices in Seoul and a satellite space in Paris that she would visit 4 times a year. She would not be working for someone else's dream. She would be building her own. The launch of Two Worlds Designs was planned for 6 months later, giving Vivian time to develop her first collection, hire a team, and establish operations. Tiang used Kim Industries' resources to help secure manufacturing partnerships, retail distribution, and media coverage. But he was careful to let it be Vivian's company, not his. This was her achievement, her vision, her success. Vivian's first collection was inspired by her journey. From invisible to unforgettable, from servant to queen, from powerless to powerful. Each piece told part of that story through color, fabric, and design. The collection included a recreation of her competition-winning design, updated and perfected. But it also featured new pieces that pushed boundaries even further. An evening gown that combined Nigerian Ankara prints with Korean hanbok structure. A suit that merged West African kente cloth with Japanese origami folding techniques. A wedding dress that blended traditional Ethiopian habesha chemise with modern Korean minimalism. Every piece celebrated the beauty of cultural fusion without erasing the distinct identity of either tradition. It was exactly what Vivian had always dreamed of creating. The launch event was held at a prestigious gallery in Seoul, attended by fashion industry leaders, celebrities, and press from around the world. Grandmother Hannah sat in the front row in her wheelchair, beaming with pride. Maya and Professor Lee were there, both having been instrumental in supporting Vivian through everything. And Tiang stood backstage with Vivian as the show was about to begin, holding her hands and looking at her with absolute adoration. "Are you nervous?" he asked. Terrified, Vivian admitted, "What if no one likes it? What if I fail?" "You are not going to fail," Tiang said. "But even if you do, even if this whole thing crashes and burns, you will still be the woman who had the courage to try. And I will still be the luckiest man in the world because I get to be married to you." Vivian kissed him. "Thank you for everything, for believing in me even when I could not believe in myself." "Always," Tiang said. "Now go out there and show them what you are made of." The show was a triumph. Each model that walked down the runway brought gasps and applause from the audience. Fashion critics immediately declared it one of the most important collections of the decade. Orders flooded in from retailers worldwide. When Vivian took her final bow, the applause was deafening. She looked out at the audience and saw her chosen family, Tiang, grandmother Hana, Maya, Professor Lee, all on their feet cheering for her. This was her moment, her victory, her proof that she was exactly as worthy as she had always dreamed of being. While Vivian's star was rising, the Carter family was experiencing their final fall. Devon's trial was swift. With his own testimony against Isabella and the mountain of evidence against him, the prosecution pushed for the maximum sentence. He was convicted of multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy, and defamation, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Diane and Celeste, who had known about Devon's plan but not directly participated, avoided criminal charges but faced civil lawsuits. Multiple parties sued them for damages, including Vivian, Tiang, and several of Isabella's previous victims who had been inspired to come forward. The civil cases dragged on for months, but eventually resulted in judgments that stripped the Carters of what little assets they had left. They were forced to declare bankruptcy. Bernard, recovering from his heart attack, finally seemed to experience genuine remorse. From his hospital bed, he wrote Vivian a letter. "Dear Vivian, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. What we did to you over those 6 years was inexcusable. We took you from your grandmother, from the only person who truly loved you, and we treated you like a servant instead of a daughter. We stole years of your life, years you should have spent pursuing your education and your dreams. And then, even after you escaped, we tried to destroy you again. I understand if you hate us. We deserve your hatred. But I want you to know that I see now what we failed to see before. You are an extraordinary person. Strong, talented, kind despite everything we put you through. You deserved so much better than what we gave you. I am sorry. I know those words are inadequate. I know they cannot undo the harm, but they are sincere. I hope you will not let our cruelty define you. I hope you will build a beautiful life filled with people who appreciate the gift you are. You already have that with your husband and his grandmother. They saw your worth when we were too blind and cruel to see it. I wish you every happiness, and I am truly sorry. Bernard Carter." Vivian read the letter in the study of the Kim estate, Tiang sitting beside her. When she finished, she folded it carefully and set it aside. "Are you going to respond?" Tiang asked. "No," Vivian said. "Some apologies come too late. I appreciate that he is sorry, but it does not change what happened. It does not give me back those 6 years. I am not going to carry hatred for them, but I am also not going to let them back into my life, not even for closure." She looked at Tiang. "You taught me something important," she said. "Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. I can choose not to hate them without choosing to include them in my life. I can acknowledge the apology without accepting it. I can move forward without them." "That is very wise," Tiang said. "I learned it from watching you," Vivian said. "The way you handled Isabella. You did not seek revenge. You just wanted justice and for her to leave you alone. That is what I want with the Carters. Justice happened. They lost everything they valued: wealth, status, reputation. And now I want them to simply not exist in my world anymore." "So what will you do with the letter?" Tiang asked. "Keep it," Vivian said, "as a reminder of how far I have come, but I will not respond. My life is too full of good things to make room for their regret." 1 year after the launch of Two Worlds Designs, Vivian was preparing for her biggest show yet. Seoul Fashion Week, main stage, closing night. This was the most prestigious slot, reserved for designers at the top of their game. In just 1 year, Two Worlds designs had become a global phenomenon. Celebrities wore Vivian's designs to major events. Fashion magazines featured her collections. She had been named one of the most influential designers of her generation. But success had not changed her. She still designed every piece herself, still worked closely with artisans to ensure quality, still made sure that her company's values aligned with her personal ethics. She had also launched the scholarship program through the Vivian Kim Foundation, providing full funding for 10 talented students each year to attend design school regardless of their financial situation. The first class of scholars was already showing immense promise. The day before the fashion show, Vivian woke feeling nauseous. She had been exhausted for weeks, attributing it to stress and long work hours, but this felt different. Tiang insisted she see a doctor before the show. "If you collapse on the runway tomorrow, it will be very dramatic, but not in a good way," he said. At the doctor's office, Vivian went through the standard examination. When the doctor returned with results, she was smiling. "Congratulations, Mrs. Kim," she said. "You are pregnant." Vivian stared at her, unable to process the words. "What?" "About 8 weeks along," the doctor said. "Everything looks healthy. You will need to take it easy, reduce stress, get more rest." "But the show is tomorrow," Vivian said. "I cannot take it easy." "Then do the show and rest afterward," the doctor said. "But Mrs. Kim, you are going to be a mother. You need to start taking better care of yourself." In the car, Vivian was silent as Tiang drove them home. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I am pregnant," she said, still in shock. "We are having a baby." "I heard," Tiang said, a huge smile spreading across his face. "Vivian, this is incredible." "But the doctors said it was nearly impossible," Vivian said, "after the malnutrition and stress from the Carter years." "Apparently not impossible," Tiang said, "just improbable. Vivian, we are having a baby." The reality hit her then, and she started crying, overwhelmed with joy and fear and disbelief. "What if I am a terrible mother?" she said. "What if I mess this up?" "You are going to be an amazing mother," Tiang said. "Just like you are an amazing wife and designer and person. Our child is so lucky." That night, they told grandmother Hannah. The elderly woman cried tears of joy, her greatest wish finally coming true. "I will get to hold my great-grandchild," she said. "I will get to see the next generation. Thank you both." The next day, Vivian walked the runway after her fashion show to take her final bow. The collection had been flawless, a celebration of motherhood and legacy, and the passing of wisdom from one generation to the next. She had designed it before knowing she was pregnant, but now it felt prophetic. As the applause thundered around her, Vivian made a spontaneous decision. She took the microphone from the announcer. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she said. "This collection is about legacy, about what we leave behind, about the gifts we give to the future. And I want to share something personal with you tonight." She looked at Tiang standing in the front row, his eyes full of love and support. "I am pregnant," she announced. The audience erupted in cheers and applause. Cameras flashed. People stood for a standing ovation. Tiang rushed onto the stage and embraced her, both of them crying tears of joy in front of thousands of people. It was messy and public and completely unplanned, and it was perfect. The announcement of Vivian's pregnancy became international news. Fashion magazines wanted to do maternity spreads. Baby product companies wanted endorsement deals. Everyone wanted a piece of the feel-good story about the designer who had overcome abuse and scandal to build an empire and start a family. But Vivian and Tiang kept most of the pregnancy private. They shared a few updates on social media, but mostly focused on preparing for their child's arrival. They converted one of the rooms in the Kim estate into a nursery, decorated with a blend of Korean and African cultural elements. Grandmother Hannah insisted on buying enough clothes and toys for 10 bobbies. Maya threw a baby shower that was attended by everyone who had supported Vivian through her journey. The pregnancy was not easy. Vivian dealt with severe nausea in the first trimester and exhaustion throughout. Her doctors monitored her closely, concerned about complications from her past malnutrition. But despite the difficulties, Vivian had never been happier. She would place Tiang's hand on her growing belly to feel the baby kick, and they would talk about names, about the future, about what kind of parents they wanted to be. "I want our child to know they are loved unconditionally," Vivian said one night. "I want them to never doubt their worth or their place in our family." "They will know," Tiang promised. "Every single day, they will know they are loved." 7 months into the pregnancy, Vivian went into early labor. It was terrifying, rushing to the hospital with Tiang driving frantically and grandmother Hana on the phone, with doctors making sure everything would be ready. The delivery was long and difficult. Vivian labored for 12 hours before their daughter was finally born, tiny but healthy, with a powerful set of lungs that announced her arrival to the entire hospital. Tiang cut the umbilical cord with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face. When the nurse placed the baby in Vivian's arms, she looked down at the tiny, perfect face and felt her entire world shift. "Hello, my love," Vivian whispered. "I am your mama, and I am going to love you forever." They named her Amara Hana Kim. Amara meaning grace in Ibo, and Hana to honor the great-grandmother who had saved Vivian and given her a family. 5 years passed in a blur of joy, and challenges and growth. Two Worlds Designs expanded to become one of the most successful independent fashion houses in the world. Vivian opened additional offices in New York, Lagos, and London. Her designs were worn by celebrities, politicians, and regular people who saved up to afford a piece from her collections. But Vivian was most proud of the Two Worlds Foundation, which now funded 50 scholarships per year, and had helped launch the careers of dozens of talented designers from underprivileged backgrounds. Tiang's health had completely stabilized. He could touch anyone without reaction, and he joked that he only had an allergic reaction to people who annoyed him. He had expanded Kim Industries as well, but had learned to balance work with family time. Grandmother Hana, now in her 80s, had slowed down significantly but remained sharp and engaged. She spent her days playing with her great-grandchildren and dispensing wisdom to anyone who would listen. Yes, great-grandchildren plural. 2 years after Amara was born, Vivian gave birth to a son, Kofi Tiang Kim. He had his father's intense eyes and his mother's bright spirit, and kept the entire household entertained with his antics. On a warm afternoon, Vivian sat in the garden of the Kim estate watching Tiang play with the children. Amara was 5 now, curious and brilliant, and already showing an interest in fabrics and colors. Kofi was 3, energetic and fearless, and absolutely convinced he could fly if he jumped high enough. Grandmother Hana sat beside Vivian in her wheelchair, the two of them enjoying the peaceful scene. "You have built a beautiful life, dear," Grandmother Hana said. "We have," Vivian corrected. "You built this life too. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You saw value in me when I could not see it in myself." "I simply recognized what was already there," Grandmother Hana said. "The strength, the kindness, the talent. I just helped you see it too." Amara ran over, holding a flower she had picked. "Mama, look," she said. "Is it pretty?" "It is beautiful, love," Vivian said, "just like you." "I want to make it into a dress," Amara announced. "Can you teach me?" "Of course," Vivian said. "We will start tomorrow." After the children were in bed that night, Vivian and Tiang sat on the balcony of their room, looking out at the city lights. "Do you ever think about how different our lives could have been?" Vivian asked. "If I had not gone to the wrong hotel room that night, if your grandmother had not insisted on the marriage, if we had not chosen each other." "All the time," Tiang admitted. "And I thank whatever force in the universe brought us together. Even though it started in chaos and confusion, even though we went through hell to get here, I would not change any of it." "Not even the parts where we almost lost each other?" Vivian asked. "Especially not those parts," Tiang said, "because they taught us to fight for what we have, to not take each other for granted, to choose each other actively instead of passively." He took her hand. "You know what I realized," he said. "That first night, when you stumbled into my hotel room drugged and terrified, you were not in the wrong place. You were exactly where you were supposed to be. It just took us a while to understand that." Vivian leaned against him, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart. "I am writing a memoir," she said, "about everything. The Carters, the abuse, meeting you, the conspiracy, building the business, all of it. What will you call it? Tiong asked. From invisible to unforgettable, Vivian said. My journey from servant to queen. I love it, Tiong said. When do I get to read it? When it is finished, Vivian said. It is hard to write, dredging up all those painful memories, but I think it is important. Other women need to know that you can survive terrible things and still build a beautiful life, that your past does not define your future. You're going to inspire so many people, Tiong said. I hope so, Vivian said. I hope some girl who is trapped like I was will read it and realize she can escape. She can build something better. She deserves to be loved and valued and celebrated. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. Remember our contract, Tiong said suddenly. The marriage contract, Vivian asked. 1 year and then divorce. Yes, Tiong said. We are well past the year mark. Technically, we could get divorced any time. Vivian pretended to consider it. You make a compelling point. We should probably end this arrangement. Absolutely, Tiong agreed, playing along. It has run its course. Just one problem, Vivian said. What is that? Tiong asked. I am completely, hopelessly, ridiculously in love with you, Vivian said. So I think I will have to break the contract and stay married forever. What a coincidence, Tiong said. I was thinking the same thing. He kissed her deeply, a kiss that held all the love and gratitude and joy they felt. When they finally broke apart, Vivian whispered, I love you. I love you too, Tiong said. From invisible to unforgettable, from contract to forever, I love you. And in that moment, sitting on the balcony of the home they had built together, surrounded by the family they had chosen, Vivian realized something profound. She had not just survived, she had not just escaped, she had transformed, from the girl who cooked in silence to the woman who designed for the world, from the daughter no one wanted to the wife everyone envied, from the servant to the queen. But more importantly, she had learned her worth. She had discovered that she was never the problem. The people who could not see her value were the problem. And once she realized that, once she chose to walk away from those who diminished her and toward those who celebrated her, everything changed. Her grandmother would be proud. Her adoptive grandmother, Hannah, was proud. Her children would grow up knowing their mother was strong and talented and had overcome impossible odds. And most of all, she was proud of herself. From invisible to unforgettable, from broken to whole, from lost to found. This was her story, this was her truth, this was her happily ever after. And it was just the beginning. And that's the end of Vivian and Tiong's incredible journey. From a drugged night in a hotel room to building an empire and a family together. From contract marriage to real, forever love. This story proves that your past doesn't define your future, that you can survive terrible abuse and still build something beautiful. That real love fights for you, protects you, and helps you become the best version of yourself. If you loved this story, please like this video, comment your favorite moment from all 3 parts, subscribe so you never miss future stories, and share this with someone who needs to hear that they are worthy of love and success. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. Vivian and Tiong's story will always hold a special place in my heart, and I hope it inspires you the way it inspired me. Until next time, remember, you are never invisible. You are unforgettable. You are enough.